Hey, welcome to EPS ParaTalk. I'm Robert. I'm the founder of the team. Wait just a moment for people to start jumping on here. Today we're going to be talking about a few different things. We're going to dwell a little bit more into really a little bit more detailed. We don't really tend to cover it, and it's going to be dealing with guests or members if they have a negative experience on a site. Michael, Bonnie, Linda. Hey, Bonnie. Hope your trip went all well down there, traveling back and forth so much. Colette, thanks for being on. Appreciate it. Playing solo today, so just bear with me a little bit. Appreciate y'all's help a little, if you don't mind. Hope the weather's better for you guys out there than what we've been dealing with. Yeah, get to be solo. No, Freddie is sick. Thank you. Freddie's not fired. Smart aleck. Oh, my God. I bet you do like being back to the warm weather. Yeah, we got the, I think we're supposed to have snow sometime late tonight, so happy watch for that. Ron, thanks for being on. Tassos. Peter, we got to get together, man. I should have called you, seeing if you were available. I should have had you set with me this morning for this talk. Tassos has got a team as well, and we've been talking about it. We haven't done it yet, but I want to definitely collaborate with him. My team did collaborate with him last year, and again, it's another team that's not too far away that we can do a joint investigation. I really enjoy doing those, so I'm looking for another very lively location to go to. Again, just so everybody's on the same page, I'm gonna play definitely some audio clips. It's gonna be more the negative one, to be honest with you. Linda, we got that snow coming. I don't want any of it. I know it's not what we care to always hear, but I want to compare a few of them from different locations, give you guys a little bit of idea as far as about them. And I also want to talk about how do you guys deal with it when you have a guest or a teammate that experiences something negative at a location. How do you let them pretty much handle it themselves? How much do you engage on that? It's a topic I think we really need to start talking about. It does happen. I mean, people go away and, sometimes they'll try to shake it off. Is there any follow-up afterwards? It's all things to consider. So that's one of the subjects I definitely want to bring up today. Also, I want to take, last week we had an incredible investigation. I mean, it was really, really cool. I definitely enjoyed it a lot. And what I want to do is I want to actually take a clip. I had a guest downstairs in the basement. He had an issue. And I want to actually, it's a 6-minute long clip, but I want to take and kind of dissect. You can actually pay attention to know when your guest or teammate is having an issue. So I think it would be pretty cool to be able to listen to something real that actually happened and see what you guys pick up on as well. Mary, thanks for being on. We're going to get started here in just a moment. I was just trying to give anybody else a chance to jump on before we get rolling. Definitely quiet today. Seems weird being solo. haven't done a solo for anything worthwhile for a while now, so get in the habit of it. Just bear with me for a moment. Get this over to my page as well. Apologize for the interruption. Hope everybody's doing well today. Hope you guys are enjoying it. The last of the weekend. Of course, all the holiday shopping and whatnot. Okay, thanks. All right. Sandy, thanks for being on. Awesome. All right, I'm going to hit some audio, make sure you guys can hear it. I'm just going to play a couple different random clips. Definitely, Bonnie, I want you to definitely make sure you get a chance to hear a couple of these. They're pretty interesting, I thought. I tweaked with a little bit of them, and I just took a small gap. When Bonnie went into the basement last weekend, I had two recorders. Down there. We had a drop mic hanging down. That's what you guys could see in the frame. And of course, the video had audio on it as well. It was really interesting what we ended up picking up, the screaming that went on. Philip. the screaming we went on. So since Bonnie didn't hear it in real time, and yet it's on the recorder, it would be considered an EVP. I went ahead and took a small segment of that, and I've got the raw, but I've also played with it a little bit to try to make it so that we can hear a little bit easier as far as what was going on. And by what I'm saying is I'll use the program Audacity. I'll slow things down just a little bit, usually by 0.85 or 0.9 as far as slow down 10 or 15%, and you get to hear a little bit better what's going on. Bonnie, I think you'll really be more appreciative of it than anybody since you were the one that was down there. There's also one that has, in part of it, there's a male voice, and I want to see if you can actually, if you have any idea who it is, Bonnie. So I'm going to play a couple clips, just hang out for a minute. Before I get to the negative, I want to hit this real quick. This is the, sometimes we catch EVPs or responses that are not always negative, and this time, this one to me seemed very angelic. This was a location at a cemetery where they take the cemetery themselves. If somebody unfortunately loses a child that's 2 or less years old, they were burying them for free. So it was called the Angels. It was an area where they would go ahead and bury the little angels. And in this case, I was asking whether or not they wanted to go with us over here. I was heading over to that location. Did they want to go? So I was kind of curious. The sound that we get is pretty awesome to hear. Bear with me just a moment. Okay, that's not where I put it. Oh, here we go. Just the response. We're going to head over to the little angels. You want to come, is what I said, and then we get. Like multiple voices kind of echoing at the same time, which was pretty cool. Philip getting the holy water out. Philip, you want some holy water, man? We got some extra. Actually, I got 2 cases of it sitting off to the side. Enjoy that trip out to California. Trying to keep up with y'all's comments as well, which is cool. So again, not everything is negative, but I did want to play some that was very recent, and then I want to also again talk about teammates when they, or guests when they are affected. So going back to the clip that we listened to with Bonnie. So there's a little bit of screaming going on where obviously they wanted Bonnie out of there, so it was kind of interesting to listen to. No, there's not, but you're hearing that voice, and bear with me on this. Listen to this voice for a moment. Now it's slowed down. But all 3 of those, one was in Maryland, one was in West Virginia, and one was in Utah. but you can hear how high, almost a mechanical sound. To Philip's point, when you listen to that, it's pretty amazing that it's how high that they are as they're trying to go ahead, and that type of energy is trying to go ahead and create a sound for us to hear. Bonnie, there's one I'm trying to find. I've got a clip on here that I really want you to, it's downstairs in the basement when it's hollering like that. And then there is a man, I'm not sure, I don't think it's the actual same voice, and it's saying, "Look at me," is what he's trying to get you to do, like if you could see him. Yeah, it was a whole lot of get outs. That was, and that, again, that was only a small clip. There was actually 2 minutes long. That whole play was for 2 minutes, so it was pretty amazing. But when you listen to these, you know, if you start taking into mind and considering, okay, if, let's just say, you run into a very negative location and you start hearing things that are high pitched like that, it kind of gives you a little bit more insight of what you might be dealing with. And then at that point, how are you going to protect your team members, or what are you going to do? Seeker, thanks for being on, buddy. Appreciate it. Yeah, I don't think anybody disagrees. I mean, even my wife heard Get Out, and she's one of the first ones to go ahead and say it just sounds like somebody dragging their foot or something. She just, her hearing, I mean, everybody has a different hearing range, and she could hear the Get Outs on it. So if you take that small little clip and just multiply it again, and it's wild because as Bonnie comes down the steps, you start hearing it, and it starts very low, and just watching it raise and raise and raise in tone to a point that whatever it is absolutely losing its mind, trying to scream at her, trying to make sure she could understand it. It was very intense to watch. I'm sure it was much funner being there for it. I have to admit. The good part is the family is doing fine. They've had no issues whatsoever. The kids are perfectly fine, content. They're sleeping in their own beds now. That's wonderful for the client. So again, it's a successful case so far. This is where we bring it to, and we go in. Everybody's got their different ways. I mean, you have no idea how many times people are lecturing me about how I'm doing things or what I should do or want to teach me and everything. I'm always willing to learn, don't get me wrong, but too many people have not actually experienced anything truly negative. Philip, how long ago was it when you actually ran into your most negative, the very first one that actually punched you? I believe you got punched in the stomach or chest. Now that he's in the field a lot more, he's probably going to run into it more. Again, and to your point, Tassis, I appreciate it very much. It's getting to a point where, you know, you start to, I don't even realize, I mean, I was looking at this part with Mark, and I'm going to play it so that everybody's on the same page, and that's really my big point today is how do you handle a situation? You know, in this situation, it's to go back and actually look at the film and the video and start watching, and you're not only watching the client, but you always, I'm really a big advocate for watching yourself, trying to figure out how can you be better and what are you doing right, you know, and watching your reactions to how things are happening. If you're one of these that are all of a sudden, oh my gosh, and you start flipping out, what do you think the client's going to do? Obviously the client's going to go ahead, they're reacting to you. You start losing it, they're going to lose it, no question. And that could be definitely leave a horrible mark on the field, and we don't want that. I don't want that. I mean, again, that's why we're doing so many of these lives. We want to go ahead and make sure that people can see this and hear it for themselves and know what's going on. Yeah, just to reiterate what Bonnie was saying, when she was there, she heard nothing, so she had no big deal. To her, it was okay. She didn't feel threatened or anything else. Freddie, thanks for being on, buddy. I am going to play this clip as far as with Mark. I want to bring it up on Audacity, so if we need to change anything, I can. It's actually a 6-minute clip, so it's a long clip, but I want to break it down as we go through it, just to give people an idea of what's going on. Love Audacity. There's so much you can do with it. And again, this is about a 6-minute clip. I'm going to play a little bit of it, and I want you to listen to. Understand the way it sets out. Anytime I'm dealing with a location that might have something negative, I don't assume honestly that there's anything negative there. I'm not saying that people aren't being truthful, But as an investigator, I don't know until I can see for myself. Bear in mind, I've already had Janie go ahead and do a walkthrough on the house over the phone. Went ahead and read the house, which was a big deal to me. That really helps. I had Bonnie there so that she can go ahead and figure out what's going on. That was a really big help. And then I have people on, obviously, that are on right now. Philip, several other people that they can give me insight as well to a location. And that really makes a world of difference for me when I go to a location. But once we go ahead and we do the meet and greet with the clients, we bring our equipment in, we typically go ahead and try to figure out where we're going to set up. Ideally, trying to get things set up and out of the way is first and foremost. But what I'll do at one point before we actually start the investigation is I want to slow down with the client, and I want to go over A, some ground rules, and B, I need to make sure they understand where I'm coming from. Valerie, thanks for jumping on. And in that regards to that, the ground rules, if somebody starts feeling different, something starts, as long as everybody, your clients are going to be nervous. That's very typical. Some of them are going to be excited. Some of them are just going to be outright nervous. Knowing which ones are the worst is a real big benefit. If you're dealing with something negative, is the likelihood that they're going to be a target? Absolutely. So it's better to have them within your sight than not in your sight, because the last thing you want to do is get pulled away from what you're working on. And that's, again, this is just my philosophy, the way I look at things. Go at it. Deborah, thanks for being on. Glad to have you back. So want to sit down and make sure that all the clients understand if they start feeling different, they need to say something. You have to take a few minutes to really learn the client's personalities, because what happens is, unfortunately, sometimes when we get to a location where the clients were terrorized, now they become Superman. Now all of a sudden they don't care. They want to act like they can go ahead and do anything. And you don't typically have the clients with you the entire time, so you don't know what their actions are. What were their actions before you got there? If they went and antagonized and you're not aware of it, could something happen? And the answer is absolute. Clients, you want them to go ahead and be able to believe in you, and that's huge. Sam, thanks for being on. So setting the ground rules, making sure they understand as far as keeping things down, not whispering, the simple things. If they make a noise, they need to speak up so that we can tag it. But more, especially when you're treating a negative location, is if something happens, you want to make sure. I plant the seed at every location. I tell everybody, no matter where they're at, even if the location is perfectly calm, I want them to understand that, hey, worst case scenario, if anything were to ever happen, number one, as soon as we break the plane of the house, which means we go out the door, you're perfectly fine. Nothing's going to follow you out the door. You'll be all right. And that starts putting it in their head. At least that gives them a parameter that once they're out of here, say something really bad does happen, once they get out there, hopefully they start thinking in their head, they remember what you said, and they'll start calming down. Also, what are you going to do? I mean, do you ever explain what step are you going to take if something does go wrong or negative for a person? You're walking in there and all of a sudden, and I'm using Philip a little bit. Philip, when you were with your team, as far as when that happened to you and you end up getting hit or anything, how did your team react? And that's for anybody else. Brian, same thing. You go out a lot. How do you react if somebody with you all of a sudden gets hit? So I always explain to the client what steps I'm going to take. I'm definitely going to go ahead and place the sign on the cross. It's my method. Whatever you do works for you. Place the sign of the cross. I'll end up using holy water, and we'll go and do a prayer. You want them to have an understanding of what you're going to do. A few years ago when we did it, and we had a client and she temporarily got jumped, she was no longer in control. I didn't know. We were basically in a dark situation. She curls up like a ball. She curls up like a ball out of pain. And when I go to start talking to her and I start placing the sign of the cross and hit her with holy water, she just throws my arm aside and was like, I don't think so. And it's like, okay, my first thought was, how did I offend this person? And then reality kicked in that person was no longer home. So that's a concern you have to have. I'll be bait anytime. That's not a problem. Bonnie, you don't even run. So what are you talking about? Just reading some of the comments again. Some people do have all the clients leave, and I absolutely understand that. That's one way of doing it, and that's what Philip does in their team. I absolutely get that. In this case, what we do is I usually remove all the children. I don't want to have any children in there. The adults are the ones that are going to have to live with it. So again, this is just my philosophy. I'm not saying it's the only way to do it by far. But when you turn around and you have the clients and they're going to be the ones that are going to be there afterwards, to me, it's good to have the clients understand what process you're taking, make sure they understand how serious it is, and then show them that you have the control. In this case, I knew the most nervous person, ironically, the most nervous person was Mark, which I definitely appreciate him being very open, and he was willing to work with me and do anything I asked him to do, and that was a big deal. You don't see everything that happens behind the scenes. Obviously, we're trying to get more and more of that on there for you. I want you guys to be able to see that. And again, some of you guys are experienced. Philip, you've got experience. Brian, you've got experience. It's really important for that. But there's a lot of people out there that do not have any true experience. Sandy's another one that prefers to have clients leave. Again, nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I don't like, I guess watching the shows, it's kind of a drag because, you know, a lot of the shows like Hollywood likes to have the clients leave and they say, oh, this happened, you know, a hole in your wall just got blown out. I call bullshit flag. I would prefer for somebody to be there and know what's going on. That's just me. But I want them to know what I'm doing in their house, and what steps I'm taking. I want them to experience it. If they're that scared, I want to know what's going on. I don't want whatever negative is to jump with them and go with them out the door either. Not saying all of them will, but there are some, in some cases, that will, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Seeker, yeah, you've come into a lot of the very, very negative as well. I get that, and people are on. Look, when this happened, we had all this craziness going on. You know, people are saying, "Oh no," you know, some people are saying it was demonic, which yeah, I absolutely believe it was demonic at the time, and some people are saying it's not. I don't even get into that. I'm not that worried about it. It's the whole point is, what are you doing to take care of it? I need something to show itself. That's a real big. That's when they make the mistake. When you know you can pull it out and know what's actually there, it's a real big deal. Valerie has a question. Do you have repeated cases? Clients call you back, and if you do, you approach the investigation differently. Valerie, the only time I've had clients call me back, there's been 2 occasions, and like, give you one example. Everything was dead for a couple of months, so they decide they're going to go ahead and start asking EVPs and start the whole investigation thing up, and they call it one EVP, and it scared the hell out of them. Don't waste, I'm sorry, you're wasting my team's time at that point. If you were so scared of it, don't, and we explain to everybody, don't mess within your house. No, I do not have to go back to do any repeated cases. And I know people work on cases for months, and I'm not telling them, hey, my way's the only way. I go for that 4 hours, 8 hours, whatever it is. I've done homework beforehand. It's not the only thing I do. I do what I do, and then afterwards, I follow up with the client constantly. I like to stay in touch with the client. If the client turns around and all of a sudden brings somebody starts doing is a practicing black witch, and she's going to start doing some spells in the house after we leave, and everything's been calm for a month until she starts doing that, that's on the client. At that point, I'm not wasting time, because you're opening it back up. When we walk into a location and we set the rules and we say, hey, this is how we're going to do it, as long as you don't go back and open anything back up and bring them back in, you'll be perfectly fine. They've been set. They've been set from the jump, from the first day. Philip was talking about a 6'2" Marine teammate walking with him got pushed into a wall. All right. So in that case, Philip, what happened afterwards? I mean, once you get hit and something goes aside, everybody's not going to go ahead and everybody's going to react differently to something negative. And I guess that's what I'm really getting to. Were you set up to even be aware of beforehand, regardless? And somebody brought up the point before, what happens when I get jumped or something happens to me? Ideally, obviously, nothing will ever happen, but could something? Absolutely. So as I start building up my new team, one of the things which I started doing with one of my teammates on the last was to start teaching them. So hopefully if something happens, you definitely want to have more than one person understand how to do something. I want to go into this audio, and this is Mark and myself down in the basement. And the big thing I want you to listen to is our interaction, if you don't mind. Again, it's a long clip. I'm going to break it up. It's 6 minutes, but this is when Mark goes down to the basement. He is nervous. He outright openly admits that he's nervous. And I'm going to cut to the chase, get a little bit closer into when the activity started to happen for him. But I want you to listen to his voice also. At one point he's laughing. When he stops laughing, that's when you know everything gets serious really, really quick. Go back to Philip for a second. Sorry, Sam, I don't know what the issue is as far as with the connection. So far, it seems to be going fine on my end. Everybody else, just give a thumbs up if you guys can hear okay and you can see okay. Everything's looking fine from mine. You might have to jump off and go back in, Sam. I apologize. So I'm going to go ahead and start playing this clip. Again, this is Mark and myself from the last investigation.
I'm going to pot off in there, so don't freak out if you hear something go beep, beep, whatever in back there, okay? Gotcha. You're just going to put the flashlight on? There's another flashlight on. Can you turn them off, please?
So he's asking questions, which is great. That's wonderful.
Mark, how you feeling, buddy? You okay? Nervous. Okay. Anything besides nervous? Any issue?
That's a real big deal right there. I knew he was nervous, but you can hear him laugh, and it's a nervous laugh, but you hear him laugh. That's a real big indicator to, again, it's something to know that you want to pick up when you're talking to clients, what their personality is like in a very fast way.
I'm going to pot off in there, so don't freak out if you hear nervous. Okay. Anything besides nervous? Any issue? Short breath? You okay? I'm good for now. Okay.
And checking up on your clients, especially if you're going to use them.
Does anybody need to cross it over? Turn one later on.
So he's still able to go ahead and form his sentences. He's still paying attention, and that's really big.
I feel like there's somebody on my lap. What is it? I feel like there's somebody sitting on my lap. You feel like there's somebody actually on your lap? Yes.
Now you start hearing his answers. He goes, yes, and now it's being pulled out. So now he's making sure I'm listening to what he's saying. Now it's got him pretty nervous at that point.
Nervous. Okay. Anything besides nervous? Any issue? Short breath?
Sorry, I jumped out.
What is it? I feel like there's somebody sitting on my lap. You feel like there's somebody actually on your lap? Yes.
So now he feels this weight in his lap. Now I got to find out what kind of weight it is.
Had a great beard. You could go for Santa Claus right now. It's about the best I got for you on that one. Does it feel like a person or an animal? How big or small is it? A person. Okay. Is it pressing down, like weight? A little bit.
Real big deal is, okay, now he's got the pressure on him, but he still laughed. And that's a big deal to me. Again, it's another indicator that I'm watching and paying attention as far as to what's going on with him.
Pressing down, like weight? A little bit. Feel like a child or feel like an adult? Adult. You feel like an
now,
adult? Yes.
Listen how fast he responds.
Feel like a child or feel like an adult? Adult.
Before I almost finish my question, he's already answering, and now it's coming out really quick. So now things are changing for him. Now he's at that point where he does feel, influenced upon. So it's really important at that point to start picking up, showing that you're there for him.
Feel like a child or feel like an adult? Adult. You feel like an adult? Yes. Okay. I'm just coming to you. Back away from him right now. Tell me when it leaves. What's that? He's like, he ain't going. What is it? He's like, he ain't going. He ain't going? Mm-hmm. Just bang him out. We'll bat him around.
So at this point, whatever's around him is telling him he's not leaving. So obviously that's going to make your client or your guest extremely, or even your team member, it's going to make them extremely nervous. So how you deal with that is huge. Hey, Mom.
Feel like a child or feel like an adult?
I'm sorry, I'll skip back up here. Regardless what level I'm on, I typically have what I need to go ahead and take care of a situation. I wasn't going to put Mark down there and not have what I needed. You're also evaluating while I'm picking the stuff out, waiting to see what he's going to do.
I command you in the name of Jesus Christ to move away from him right now. Remove yourself.
I don't know if you could hear him say that. I'm going to increase the sound on this for a moment. Again, I've got this on Audacity, so I can do this real easy.
I command you in the name of Jesus Christ to move away from him right now. That is hot. Remove yourself from.
You can hear him say that is hot, the holy water. The holy water, by all means, should not have been hot. You know, if he's feeling perfectly fine, a normal person wouldn't have even reacted to it. It would just been, you know, oh, he's splashing me with something cold. It was not around anything hot. For him to feel that, it's not him that's actually feeling that. He's giving a response that the other energy that's there is feeling that didn't like that to be at the location.
Mark, take your hat off for a second. I'll place the sign of the cross on.
Start listening for Mark's breath. Now you can start hearing him actually breathing on the recorder, and the recorder was not near him.
Mark, take your hat off for a second. I'll place the sign of the cross on Mark's forehead. Sprinkle him with the shed blood of Jesus Christ. Encircle him in God's white light for protection. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us for our trespasses as we forgive those that trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the glory, and the power forever and ever. Spirit of God, the Father, the Son. Don't mind if I hold your hand here for a minute, just in case.
A real big deal when you're actually dealing with somebody, it's especially if they're larger than you. If they get jumped, which means that they temporarily lose control of themselves, their own mentality, you can have somebody who will absolutely go ahead and get very physical with you. Amber, thanks for being on. And that's extremely well advised to know ahead of time. So if I can keep them setting, I'm in a much better situation. And then in that case, I went ahead and put my hand actually on his arm that was closest to me in case he came this way. I'm already holding on to his arm. And he doesn't know what I'm doing it for offhand, but it also gives him a sense of security that I'm right there with him.
Mark, taking your hat off. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the glory, and the power forever and ever. Spirit of God, the Father, the Son. Don't mind if I hold your hand here for a minute, just in case. You okay? No?
Now, he's not laughing at that point. Now there's no more laughter left to him. He's at his peak right now.
You okay? No? Okay, listen to me. I'm going to make a noise, okay? You alright? I'm going to make a noise, okay? You alright with that? Look at me. Look at me. Me. Up here. Relax. Ain't nothing got you.
It's really important to go ahead and try to get back control of the individual at that point. And that's what I was doing. When I do that clap and I'm trying to get them to look at me, one, I want to see what's in their eyes because that's going to be the indicator if they're home or not home. And I want them to focus, quit focusing on what they're feeling. I'm trying to draw them into what I'm doing. The clap, all of a sudden, it breaks that, their subconscious and conscious, starts to get them to try to pay attention to you. It sounds like a lot, but it took me 4 or 5 times to get him to actually look up at me in a very quick succession. I'm going, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me, right here, look up here. He was so drawn in at that point.
Make a noise, okay? You alright with that? Look at me. Look at me. Me. Up here. Relax. permission to be on or near this person anymore. You cannot influence Mark in any way, shape, or form. Remember that other person I was talking about? He's watching right now, Gilson. As far as what I said, stay seated. What's that?
So you can hear nothing's changed. He's really, really not responding as far as to the laughing or anything. He is not a happy camper.
What's that? Gotcha.
Saying he's got me.
Angel Paul, I ask you for your protection around Mark right now.
That was me laughing, Philip. I kept trying to make light of it.
Spirit of God, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, the most holy Trinity, angels and archangels, and the saints of heaven, descend upon this house immediately and surround Mark with your energy and remove anything vicious, anything malicious, anything evil, any shape or form. Remove the influence from him immediately, please. This I pray upon. I beg you to remove anything away from him. In the name of Jesus Christ, remove any and everything that's malevolent in this location. Just breathe. It's okay. Listen up. Just breathe. It's okay.
Just going to amp this back up for you. I want you to be able to actually hear his reaction.
Just breathe. It's okay. Listen up. Listen up. Just relax.
That's when it just left, right at that point. He was back. Everything had just dropped off him at that point. Once you heard the breath go out.
Like when he marks around. I didn't check it.
Now he's laughing again.
Relax, okay? Just relax. You get plenty of white light coming around you, man. It's to influence.
And he wanted to know, why did that happen to him? Why did he do that?
Relax now.
And he's ready to go upstairs.
You want to go upstairs?
I think it's awesome, the fact that, with that clip, you can actually, again, it's no different than paying attention to your teammates. How well do you know your teammates? And how do you interact with them? Trying to keep control of the tempo of what's going on is really, really important. If somebody would have freaked out in that location, you would have had two people freaking out, because Mark would have put he would have exited through that place like there's no tomorrow. Colette, I know you were saying as far as that there was nothing negative there, it was more so his imagination. It's for anybody to believe. I'm not here to go ahead and convince you one way or the other that it was demonic, not demonic. Mark, unfortunately, felt like he was pushed down the stairs, ended up breaking his wrist in 3 different locations prior to this happening. So he's a little intimidated by the location by itself. Do things play in your head? Do we self-consciously, do we create a lot of our issues? Absolutely. It'd be crazy for anybody to think not. I mean, again, we were all young at one point. We're turning around and we turn the lights off, watch the scariest little flick we can watch, and then all of a sudden the phone rings and we all jump out of our skin. We used to all do that. Just about all of us used to do that. That was the normal thing. Can that still happen nowadays? Sure. Humans do not like to be in the dark. In this case, we're in the dark for a reason. We don't have to ghost hunt in the dark or do paranormal investigations in the dark. Why do we do it in the dark? Light anomalies, that's true. We want to be able to go ahead and see anything that would be a light anomaly. But at the same time, I want whatever's on the other side. If that happens to feel, the dark gives the dark a chance to go ahead and come out or anything, they feel a little bit more comfortable coming out, fine by me. I don't care. That's more my mentality behind it. When it comes to going back to the voices, question, hang on, sorry. Valerie, what you got? In this situation, would you typically bring in more team members to help get rid of this attack? Yes, Valerie. I only had Bonnie. We had understand what was happening at this house. The One resident of the house was she was taking a shower in a very vulnerable, a shower area is, or bathroom is a very vulnerable situation. They really can go ahead and pick on you at that point. We're mostly vulnerable when we're in the bathroom, and that's not a wonderful place to be when something starts happening. In this case, she could hear the door jingling, the rattling as far as the knobs and everything. And I checked all the hardware. The hardware works perfectly fine on all these doors that open sporadically by themselves. The front door will just slam open. What the hell? Front doors typically have even better hardware than the inner doors. In this case, the front door will work perfectly fine. It would just fly open on its own. As far as with the bathroom situation, you turn around and she's taking a shower, and all of a sudden she hears the noise of the doorknob. She looks out, the door opens, and shortly right after that, she gets bit on the leg and has a bite mark. It's not a human bite mark. It's not rounded like a human. It's a wide V-shaped bite mark. There's holes through there. Could the client have made that herself? Absolutely. But given all the different history of what was going on here, and then what I had picked up from my medium, and then having Bonnie with me, back to your question, would I like to have more people in that situation? Absolutely. But the kids were terrorized. The dog, they had this tiny little dog whose ears were bigger than the dog itself. The dog had been thrown down the stairs, I mean, about yay high off the steps, going down all the way down. So the animals were being terrorized, the kids are being terrorized, the parents are being terrorized, the noises, the banging, which we've already had in the first round. We know there were some things happening. We'd heard dog bark that there was no dog in there. We've heard talking when there was nobody talking around us. We heard banging. There was a lot more stuff going on. So ideally, yes. But at the same time, Valerie, I've been in locations where I wouldn't let all my team members, my seasoned team members, go into, because whether if they were sick, if they weren't feeling right, I wouldn't even put them in that situation. Great question, though. In this case, I only had Bonnie, and if I had to go out by myself, I would have done it by myself. It's not the ideal way to do it. Karen, thanks for being on. And again, Colette, that perfectly fine. I get what you're saying as far as with you kind of more so think it was just a spirit. I get that. I've never had a spirit hit those voices that, or whatever, as much as we can call voices. And you can have grumpy ghosts that will imitate things. There's no question about it. Paul, thanks for being on. Alicia, thanks for being on. Sorry, I'm passing up some people. I'm trying to catch up right now. Vet, I was watching this clip. I was amazed how quickly his demeanor changed. Mark is doing fine. Again, he's got broad shoulders. He's been really cool about all of it. And the one thing he said is, hey, I had faith in you. I knew you had me. I wasn't worried about it. It was definitely the most intense thing he's ever had in his life. He'll be the first one to tell you that. Rightfully so. That was pretty intense. Just going to catch up on the comments. Apologize for being behind. Well, 15 just disappeared. That's great. That works out even better. So that by itself certainly wouldn't have said it was a demonic that was on top of him or anything like that. That wasn't enough evidence going on. Was something showing itself? Definitely was showing itself. They'll typically target the largest person that's in there if possible, because it's intimidation. You have this followed up right afterwards. I went ahead and said, hey, look, I'm going to do cleansing. I'll take him upstairs, explain to Bonnie, I'm going to start cleansing. The whole plan was to go ahead and hit the top part of the house, work our way down, and then hit the basement last and push it out the basement door, which is what we ended up planning on doing. While I was still working the top, Bonnie figured there was enough time to go downstairs, and in case there was any spirits down there that needed to be calmed down, settled, or anything else, to have an idea what was going on. So that's why she went into the basement by herself. As I came down the stairs from upstairs to the main floor, Bonnie had heard. Philip went ahead and hit, because I was listening to one of the clients was watching Bonnie on her phone, and there was all this noise coming through, and that's what got my attention. I was like, what are you listening to? Excuse me. I thought she was listening to somebody else's investigation, quite honestly, because there was so much noise coming out of it. And she says, no, I was watching Bonnie. I was like, Bonnie? She goes, yeah, she's in the basement. And that's when we could hear all the voices hollering, get out. I'll go back to that. That's just a small clip of it. It was for 2 minutes, going off with telling Bonnie to get out. And there's a lot louder. I'll do a little bit better here in the very near future. Get me a soundboard so I can go ahead and make it so you guys, make sure you guys can all hear it. What has not happened, and I have not seen a spirit be able to do, is to hear all this screaming that's going on, in a very, very high pitch, was screaming at us. And that was coming by. I basically left the camera downstairs like a static cam. So you guys, the viewers were watching, that's coming from the mic, from the camera. Prior to that, it's quiet. Besides some sudden thuds or bangs or something, just out of the blue, just a sudden bang, and then nothing. It would be completely quiet. And then as Bonnie walks across the floorboard and gets to the basement door, and as she starts to descend the steps, you start hearing this voice, whatever, picking up, get out, get out, get out, get out, get out. And then it starts rising. As she comes closer, it gets higher and higher and higher. Understand, Bonnie doesn't hear any of it, which is the ironic part. Bonnie doesn't hear any of it. She has no equipment on, no spirit box, nothing else playing. How do you attest to that? Pretty awesome. So, hope you guys enjoyed that part anyway. Again, when you get to a location, how else has your team members, or if you've ever been on a location, had an issue? Was anybody taken care of? Yeah, Mark was smiling, but again, it did scare the hell out of him. Don't get me wrong, and there's no question about it. But he was perfectly fine. He's been very cool about. We've communicated afterwards. That's another big deal. Is I always follow up with the clients. I want to make sure the clients are still doing fine. I don't want to just walk away from a day and say, okay, everything's all right, no big deal. That's not the case. Brian and Renee, thanks for being on. This is my computer. Lets me go ahead and. Freddie, you'd be happy right now. There it goes. I'll say I can't see my messages, unfortunately. All right, here's your bigger part. And David, Trish, Tracy, sorry, just catching all you guys. Justin, thanks for being on. Valerie, how do you cleanse a property as far as which tools do you use? I'll go into that real quick, but I want you guys to understand. Here's the next step. Here's something different that happened at this location. Before I got there, the homeowners had guests over, and when I walked in, I was expecting that there was going to be 2 people there, and instead there was 3 additional people, all adults. So when they're there, do introductions, no big. If I have to change my plan, I change my plan. I like to try to keep as few people there as possible. I don't want to have that many people that be able to have to know what's going on with. It's a little bit harder, but human nature is the more times you add, the more people you have around you. Suddenly people start getting a little bit more cocky, a little bit more less scared, because group power of number. And in this case, I found out afterwards, the couple there was 3 people that were there, they left. One couple, when they went down the road to their house, they started having issues after this investigation. All of a sudden, they have the heat vents on their walls were somehow being, let's just say they're falling out somehow by themselves. The child's bed is moving, pretty bizarre. Woman is hearing a male voice screaming. So think about it when we start talking about attachments. They went downstairs, they went to the control area for what this was is downstairs in the basement. They went to this back room that everybody really felt that there was really nasty coming out of there. They went there, unfortunately. And when they went to come back up, the woman at the next house, the friend of theirs, she went to shut the basement door and it wouldn't let her. She said she swears it pulled the basement door back open. Then when they went home, all of a sudden things started happening. So think about it in all reality. It doesn't make a lot of sense. All of a sudden, we know there was more than just one negative energy there. I don't care what you want to put a title onto of it. We knew there was more than one there. Could one have decided, you know what, I'll go with these guys? Absolutely. You have to watch yourself. It can happen. Trying to say things can't happen is you're putting yourself out of there. Tracy, again, thanks for being on. It was a really interesting investigation. There's a couple of different things. When I'm doing a cleansing, and when you're doing a cleansing, the Matter of fact, they did it at the next house that was having issues. First thing they did is they ended up trying a cleansing. I told them, first thing you want to do at your house is you want to be stern. Hey, look, nobody's allowed to be here. You don't have permission. If you offer permission, game on. You don't want to do that. If you start investigating your house regularly and you don't go ahead and close it and say, okay, I don't want to communicate with anybody else, game on. Then more start being drawn in. You can have nice ones at first, that's great. But once energies on the other side, people on the other side start finding, hey, this person's trying to communicate with us, could a negative come in? Again, yes. Sage, very simple sage bundles. White sage, very big. I definitely use that. I'm just trying to read the comments at the same time. So white sage, definitely absolute what I'm going to end up using. I use holy water. You can use frankincense, mugwort. These are additives you can use. Like when I have an abalone shell, I'll go ahead and if I want, I can go ahead and burn the resin of frankincense first or mugwort, put that up in the air. That's perfectly fine. Me, absolutely, this is just my style. I'm definitely carrying a crucifix with me. It's one of the parts that I use. If you need to, certainly salt. These are all defensive weapons, all things that you can use. As far as for the actual cleansing itself, I don't use salt so much in my cleansing. A lot of people do. Put salt on all four corners, north, east, west, south of the house. Very big on that. I'm not knocking it. The more the better. Blessed medallions, you know, I've buried at locations. We've ended up burying blessed artifacts at locations. Or I say artifacts, I don't mean it that way, like crosses and medallions, stuff like that. If a location is extremely bad, I'm doubling up. I'll triple up. I mean, if I bury them north, east, south, and west, I turn around. I would do the salt if I need to. There's other steps you can take depending on how bad the location is. It's more so in your delivery. Besides that, I do have prayers that I use, and I will post them again on my page. I've got them on all my pages. I've posted recently the different types that I'm using. When I'm going to a room and I'm using the sage, I'll light the sage up. I've got the holy water with me. And basically, I'm claiming that territory. Now, in my religion, what religion I use is more Christianity. I'm claiming it in the name of God, so I'm going to go around. I'm going counterclockwise. The big deal is, though, which Bonnie can attest to, I smoke up the room. I mean, if the room is, I mean, if you can look around and you can kind of just walk around and go away from the smoke, you haven't used enough. I rarely use less than one. I usually use two and a half sage bundles. It puts out an awful lot of smoke. But everybody that's in the house is going to smell like sage. There's no way around it. That's a real big deal. Not just saging up above and just kind of wafting it up to the air. I want to go ahead and get down around where it can be anywhere. Closets, open everything up. Oh, I got to stop. Dory, hey, hope you're feeling better. Looked like everything went well with your surgery. Congratulations. I'm glad you're still alive there. That's good. I want to make sure I give a shout out. Just trying to catch back up on the comments real quick. I apologize, guys. Sam, again, if bay leaves work for you, wonderful. I'm just giving you what works for me. And this is, if I give any instructions to anybody, this is what you're going to hear. I typically work with people all across the United States. I send packages out. It's never cost anybody anything. I end up sending my own sage, my own holy water, instructions. I give instructions out how to do it. I have not used bay leaves. I've never had to, and I've done, regardless what anybody wants to believe, I've done some of the most terrifying locations, and my routine has been very, very effective. Again, I'm using prayers. I'm calling in for the higher powers. That's the big part of mine. I'm calling in as a conduit. I just want them to come and rip everything out of there. I do a lot of them live because there's people that are watching. I don't care if you're Wiccan, pagan, whatever. I don't care what religion you're using. If you can help live and you can do it remotely and help a client out, you got my vote for it. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate the compliments. I really do. And again, I'm in the middle of rebuilding my team, so just bear with me a little bit. Santo wood, yeah, Palo Santo wood is another. Kara, the strongest I have as far as a liquid, and Gilson one of my previous teammates used to get attacked a lot. And he will swear by this, by all means. And it's got several different oils and waters into it, and it's extremely potent. If I have somebody who I'm concerned with and the first round doesn't work, I'll end up putting a cross of this on their hand, and they've never had an issue afterwards. Never. So that's what I take from it. Again, catch up on the comments. I apologize if I miss anybody's comment. I definitely apologize. there was so much sage. Thank you so much. Sam, and that goes the point she was making. She goes, I'm not sure whether or not the leaves or the bay leaves were stronger or not. She definitely uses sage, but that's what she was told. There's a lot of people, unfortunately, in this field, though, that will tell a lot because they read it in a book and they go, oh, yeah, this is the best stuff to use. If you haven't done it or you haven't used it, you don't know. If it's coming from a source that has just been repeated over and over and over, again, you don't know. I'm giving back to what I've learned in the field. For people that are experiencing something and you can't get help right away, 2 steps that I take. Simple sea salt. Try to find it so you can see it. Sea salt, non-iodized, okay? Morton's makes a lot. There's some other brands. I don't care what it is. Non-iodized sea salt. I use Fine in particular. You could take these makeup sample kits. You can get them on eBay. You just pop the top. You could fill these up, and actually with the salt, it's like if somebody, they swear something's coming in their room at night and they're scared, or they're in the living room and they're always scared that something's going to come up. Leave a couple of these on the table. That person can take that and just throw the salt. It's not going to hurt anything in the house as long as you don't throw it in anybody's eyes. Whatever's negative there it'll go away. It'll go, just gone. You know, I don't have to explain it. It just works. It works for me. So salt is an excellent piece to be able to use for protection. Rooms. If you're a person who's having any type, or you know somebody who's having all kinds of issues at their house, maybe they don't feel confident enough in doing the entire house. I get that. But where this one, let me play this one demonic. This is a demon. Hang on a second. That's just a partial clip that's playing over and over. But you can hear the voice and everything. This is one that I could talk to on the phone. How crazy is that? It would actually be very vocal on the phone. The homeowner would absolutely freak out. But it was the fact that it had no problem talking. But the one thing that would push it away, I sent a big bag, had all kinds of sage sticks, had all kinds of stuff. If the client didn't even light it, but kept that bag in her room and let her room really fill up with the smell of sage, it would not go in that room. As soon as she removed that bag, the price was paid. You know, it works. You can take sage, you can burn some of it. Ideally, go ahead and protect your room. If you run into something negative, all it wants to do is it wants to go ahead and, number one, attack your sleep. When you're sleeping, you're vulnerable. When you're sleeping and you don't get enough sleep, you're really vulnerable because then it messes with your mind. So you can burn a little bit of sage, do your room, and I end up using holy water. And what I'm doing is I'm actually marking any of the entry points, including the windows. And if you have a master bathroom, I do all the mirrors and I also do any of the drains. I'm marking with holy water and I'm just claiming in the name of God. There's more that I talk about, and I end up, again, I've got everything in writing. You can do your room, and at least you can get your sleep or give yourself a sanctuary, and that's huge for those that are experiencing anything. But let's go back to what some people said. Hey, maybe it's their mind. If that clears somebody's mind up and it only takes me a day or only takes me a couple hours to show them, where I can take care of it from across the United States, what harm is it? Nothing wrong with that. Sam, honestly, I've had a priest involved in one location. He wasn't actually a priest, and I've gone to numerous locations where the priests have left. Some of them have run out of the location. I've been called by priests to do a location, to do multiple locations. People don't typically come into very, very negative situations. And it's not the priest's fault either. I mean, don't get the wrong idea. Unfortunately, priests are human too. Unless you deal with it, you can preach all day long. But until you're actually faced with something extremely negative, how do you know how you're going to react? So no, I've gone to more locations to take care of where priests have been called out. They've done blessings on the house. They've done, in a couple of cases, they've done exorcism, and it hasn't worked. Dory, love praying for anybody that needs it, and you are absolutely so welcome. Glad to hear everything turned out really well for you. Amber stayed in my son's room 2 nights ago, and I think I figured out why he doesn't want to stay in there. Definitely something in there. The ironic part of that, Amber, is a lot of times whatever is visiting a room doesn't pay attention to who's in the room. Like, they get to a habit of coming out and visiting somebody that's in that room, and you switch off or you go into the room and lay down beforehand. A lot of people will experience what they're actually experiencing. If rock salt works for you, that's great. Rock salt, I'm looking for the more pure salt. The whole point of the salt is it's the purest mineral that we have, and that's why salt works so well. So I don't try to mix it up with anything else in particular, but if it works for you, great. I'm not trying to tell anybody who's got an effective way of doing it how to do it differently. Excellent. I love hearing what other people use. That's awesome, Valerie. Thank you very much. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch right back up on your comments. You guys are rolling. I appreciate it. Tar water is another. I haven't seen it mentioned yet. Tar water is a good one to be able to use. Yeah, thanks, Bonnie. I'm going to be getting ready to jump off here in just a moment. It's a matter of, but don't I get when people do it, but I've know 1 or 2 people. Sarah, I'm sorry, getting ready to jump off here in just a minute, but I do want to give you a shout out. I do know a couple of people. I mean, they will go through their house and throw holy water on it all day long. There's an issue there. Unfortunately, it's no different than not saging correctly. If you don't sage correctly and you open all the windows up in the room and then you start your saging, you're not doing it. That's unfortunately, the idea is to go ahead and get all that crazy smoke in there to cling to any of the negative energy, and then as the smoke leaves, the negative energy will as well. So whatever is nasty there, it wants to try to stay away from that smoke. The more you fill that smoke up in that room, the less chance it's going to hide anywhere, like a closet or something. You want to push it out of that room and keep on pushing it. Again, I use holy water to go ahead and create barriers so it can't come backwards. Just going to catch up on everybody, and I'm jumping off here. No, hell no. It absolutely does not scare me when a priest is afraid. Again, a priest is just a normal person. You have to understand, I really enjoy the negative locations. I know that sounds absolutely horrible, and you're absolutely right. I'm a bad person for thinking that way, but I really have a fun time at it. The locations we go to, the more that's happening, and again, it kind of helps the clients desensitize. There are some things I'm going to laugh about, and I take the clients for being, truthful. I'm saying, I apologize for laughing, but when they start seeing that there's a different way you can look at it, it makes a whole different ball game happen. And when it comes to dealing with something that's truly negative, it's expecting you to have a certain reaction to it. And when you don't, it just messes with their mind dramatically. Gina, again, thank you, everybody that's been on here so far. You guys have been so kind. I definitely appreciate it. Unfortunately, I'm getting ready to jump off. Colette, again, thank you so much. Love having you guys on. Look, I'm going to be on Paranormal Warehouse, which is really probably going to get, I'll probably get overrun on Paranormal Warehouse, which would be fine since I'm going to be solo. But I hope you join me back. I'm going to be going over a lot of the same discussion, so I understand if you don't, but I really want to make sure we get it out there and start talking a little bit more about taking care of clients or taking care of team members that get affected. It's a real big concern to me. Last issue to leave you guys on real quick is if somebody has, even after the investigation, your own team members, repetitive dreams or something happening to them afterwards, it's really important even to follow up with your own team members. If I missed anybody's comments, I'll be going back through them, and I will go ahead and be responding to you later on. I apologize for anybody I've missed. Thank you so much for everybody that's shared, everybody that's been on. Love having you guys and hanging out with you guys. I'm out of here. Hope to see you at 2 o'clock. Bye.